Well, do you hate your opponent? Because I sure do. Let me show you a deck that looks at your opponent and says, you can't play the game. Except if they're ground blue. Yeah, mainly if it's just ground blue, Riviere, Highlander, anything like that. Okay, you kind of just scoop. It is what it is. But Star-vaders. You hate your opponent, you don't want them to play the game? That's perfect. This is the deck for you. So, first off, we start off with Star-vader Dusttail Unicorn. It is the best starter. If you try to play any other starter, you're wrong. It's feng shui. You can't mess it up. Now, moving on to the main deck. We run 4 Chaos Breaker Dragon. Why? It is one of the best cards in our deck. As a grade 3 red target. It removes gifts off of the opponent, and you're able to negate History Collection strikes if you went first into it and they give you CB. Excellent. I love this card. 4 SPs are on the way. I lie. Next, we have Close. Why 3 Close? In the older build, we ran 1 Close because it was just a 1 of tech. We needed it at that time. But now, we're kind of heading towards a format where you need to be able to hand rip, you need to be able to limit your opponent's size of their hand, and to lock boards manually from their hand, which this card does. Which I have played a little bit into this newer meta. This deck doesn't do as well, but you can get away with it if you get a little lucky. Next, Freeze Ray. You're going against Narukami. We love this card. You're going against multi-attack decks that do literally everything. You're going with Spikes. We love this card. You're going against Neo Nectar. We love this card. As long as they don't hit ladder. If they hit ladder, you cry. It is what it is. They hit ladder. But that's enough of the grade 3s. Next, we have the grade 2s. We have 4 Zirconium, also known as Daniel Tran's favorite card. He loves this card to his existence. So what Star-vader does, what this guy does, he's an on-play CB1. Your opponent calls the top card of their deck as locked to a front row or a back row, either or. If they call it to the back row, you get 10k and you draw a card. If they call it to the front row, you gain nothing. But the second ability is what's so good is that if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, and they have a lock card, you get a crit. Your crit becomes 2. So this gives your Vanguard pressure now, because late game you want to be able to lock their board and just swing it in with crit and kind of semi-big numbers. You're a 3 attack deck, but when your opponent can only attack with Vanguard and you're able to guard it consistently, it does become scary. Next, Flora Globularia. Why floor? Why 4? Simple. I need to be able to call cards immediately as locked. Because we're in a meta where things either have resist or they just don't exist as cards. There's so many times where I try to lock my opponent's board, but they're like, you can't because of this, you can't because of that. You pop the ladder? Great. Funny enough, if I recall correctly, this goes through ladder because you're overloading the circle. You're not moving it, you're overloading it. So, it goes through ladder. Goes through ladder. Same thing for close. It goes through ladder. Next is a 1-up Photon. Why? Honestly, you need to bump up your grade 2 ratio. This is why we play 1. It's a good card in general, but it's just so we have more consistent grade 2s. If we had better grade 2s later on, maybe, we'll never know. Then maybe we'll swap to it. But for the time being, it's just what we use for now. Next is our grade 1s. We play Craving Claw. Craving Claw is one of the best cards early game. This is like the holy grail of on-hit, give me cardboard. Like, there's times where I was like, draw 3, and I'm going second. I'll just go, cool. Swing, swing. 3 on-hits. Please. It is so fun. And most of the time in this current meta, they literally just don't care. They'll let you have the on-hit. They won't care. So it's just excellent. It's basically demo, but we still have it. Cry about it, Narukami. Anyway, continuing with our little deck profile here, we have 4 minerals. Why? Searching grade 3s are super important. If I don't see a grade 3 in this deck, I cry. That's why we play the Searcher on his Searchers as well. Top 3 for Star-vader. If I don't see a grade 3, I cry. I need to find specific grade 3s in this deck. You have to ride specific ones. It's not like certain clans where you can ride anything and kind of still keep going. You could do it here, but most of the time it'll end up in a not very good place. Like sometimes you'll go in against a deck that is a 3-attack deck, but you ride Freeze Ray. You sit there like, well, that did completely nothing for me because I'm a 10k body, and they're swinging 3 times the big number. Or there'll be sometimes you're going against a deck like you're going against like Neos. You're going against. I guess you can still use it against Nui. Sometimes on Victor, but it depends if they have all the resist pieces to do. Then you cry. But still, sometimes the Victor matchup is winnable. Or you go against a bunch of just big multi-attack decks like Yasui. Yasui, funny Yasui. You want to be into Freeze Ray, but then you ride Close, you ride CBD, and you're just like, well, I mean, it's not terrible, but just you want to be able to manage and see which ride targets you want. Or especially to search out your closes, because there's times where if your opponent did overcommit a board, you can just ride by discarding 3 closes. If you have the soul, and you collect them, just be like, cool, discard them all to stride. Soul Blast 3, cool, rip 3 from their hand immediately. Just rip 3. It is insane. Because sometimes we just need to be able to apply that kind of pressure to lock their board. Some decks that just perish on the fact that they can't do anything with their board. But continuing, speaking of not be able to do anything with the board, Borrow. We love Borrow. Borrow is an on-play Soul Blast 1 that until the end, your opponent cannot turn up cards face up at the end of their turn. So they can't countercharge, they can't unlock. It is hilarious. Like if you're going against a deck that countercharges the end of turn, it just says no. Also, funny enough, is if you use Barrow beforehand. So, for example, let's say you call Barrow, you use its ability, and you're sitting on Freeze Ray, and you put your opponent under the Barrow ability. If they attack you with while your Freeze Ray is out, and you lock those cards at the end of their turn, they will not unlock because they're still under Barrow. It is funny, haha. Unless you're playing against Granblue, then it doesn't really matter too much because they'll just call Grenache during your turn in CC, and you just be like, well, smooch. Next. We love PGs because this is our only form of guard in this deck. This deck has no guard, no shield whatsoever. Literally, you hope to draw PGs, you search them off of your Craven Claws. If you don't, great. It is what it is. But yeah, this is an excellent PG. It is basically a cool one place, discard PG, but essentially if your opponent has 3 or more lock cards, draw a card. We love drawing cards. Drawing cards is so good. I love cardboard. And then you have Elementar. Why? Because Guard Restrict is scary. This deck doesn't have any way to get around that type of thing. It just, you have Elementar, great, it's a PG. I need it. I don't. You just run out of shield so quickly. I wish I had better shield. Bushiroad, give me a Denial Griffin, please, for Link Joker. I could be trusted. I need it. Please. I beg you. So, continuing with triggers. We have 4 heals. 3 of the grade 3 heal, and then 1 CC heal. Why 1 CC heal? Because Bushiroad has still to give us Zinc. They haven't given me Zinc yet. I'm waiting for Zinc back. So this is just a CC. Because, we need countercharge in this deck. And Soul. But mainly just countercharge. And then we have our famous grade 3 heal. Because when you get beat down early, because you have no shield value as a deck, it's your best friend. You're still able to search it off of our wonderful lady over here. Search it off of her. We love her. She searches cards. Then we play 4 crit of the stride crits. Why stride crits? Because realistically speaking, Link Joker doesn't really have any other good, effect triggers because we never got any. plus Willow Striding for just a crit. We love it. Next, we have 4 GB1 crits. Why? Simple. Give 10k to the Vend and draw 1. Also because we need soul. This deck uses so much soul. It is unreal how much soul we use. Please, Bushwood, give me Zinc. Please, I can be trusted. And then we play 2 of these crits. Why? They're recyclable. It's literally the only gist. Sure, you're able to lock something, but the full purpose of them is just you're able to recycle crits. It helps you prevent deck out. And sometimes you just need, like, let's say you have, like, maybe, like, a few cards left in your deck, because you will go through your deck here and there, but eventually there'll be games where, like, you're stalling out. These are your best friends, because you just put them right back in. Triple drive, you could probably check 1 or 2. If you check both, great. If you check 1, that's okay. Then next turn, put it right back in. Keep rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Then our last PG, draw PG. Why? Well, it's because we need to play 4 Sentinels, and sometimes just playing a grade 3, a grade 0 PG is just, it's nice. There's some times where you can't use grade 1 or graders. It just kicks in. Those of Elementaria, but Elementaria sometimes it comes or goes. I don't know why. That thing just doesn't exist when I need it. No clue. But yeah, sometimes you have cards where, let's say, you can't guard with the grade 1 or higher. This comes in clutch. Or, you know, sometimes you can't use your Elementaria because you already used your Blitz Order for the turn. Then we have the best card in the deck. This is one of your win conditions, because if you pull it early and your opponent has no answers, you win the game. Elder Breath. You see, when you just go drive check Elder Breath, when you're swinging with this big boy over here, which I'll be introducing soon once we get to the G zone, you win the game. They don't have a PG? Die. Perish. Go away. You are being sent to the Philippines immediately. One-way ticket. Best card in the deck, Elder Breath, by far. Nothing compares to the power of Elder Breath. Now, moving on to the G zone. You know, because Vanguard's at his best when I start my turn on a grade 4 and end on a grade 3. It's at its best. So, starting off with strides, we have 2 Universe. Same reason why we play about the other cards in our deck. It lets us rip cards from our opponent's hand and force cards on the field to be locked, which we want. It does suck that it is a CB. To be fair to me, it's a really old card, so back then it was fair because it had Zinc. Bushwood could be Zinc. But continuing. And then its second ability, which is really nice. If I have 2 cards face up in the G zone, not GB2, because, you know, people get confused. Like, oh, you mean 2 cards face up in G zone? 2 cards face up? Oh, you mean GB2? No. It literally just says 2 cards need to be face up in the G zone. Not 1 here, not 1 there. 2 face up. And then choose on your opponent's rear and unlock it. There's many times where this comes in clutch. You're going to specific matchups like Neos. You're going against, well, you could use it against Gridora. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could use it against Gridora. Or you're going against Granblue. If you know they don't have any blitz or anything like that, you can lock 1 front row immediately with it and just be like, cool. That Skull Dragon column, gone. Don't have to worry about it. Worry about it later. Then 2 Avalanche. Why 2 Avalanche? Simple. Granblue no longer runs Sleeping Bell. Gridora does run it. I think. I don't really remember. I don't play against Gridora much anymore. I'm too lazy to play against it playtest. Note that. I'm lazy to playtest. This card is great. It is basically just on place, Soul Blast 1, turn a card face up, choose 2 rears, and lock it. Did you go second and your opponent rushed you and they have 2 front row rear guards because, you know, they know you have no shield value? Great. Lock them both, please. And you can flip up anything you want. Sometimes, if it's worth it, and you're in a matchup where you need those cards to go away because they can recur from the drop zone, cool, just flip that up. When it unlocks, go to bind zone. It does mess you up a little bit because you can't be using CVD's skill to draw. Or anything. Actually, I think you can. I have to double check on that. I don't know, it's been a while since I've doing some real playing. But yeah, this is great. It basically just says, cool, G-Zone skill. If there's 2 of these face up, when opponent's card will be unlocked, bind it face down instead. Why is that great? Because we love face down bind. and it binds it. We love bind zone. Next, Glue Ball, but the original Glue Ball. Why I play the original Glue Ball? It is just that good. It is just an on-place Soul Blast 1. Turn a card face up with the same name, and then choose as many of my opponent's rear guards that have face-up cards and use them and unlock them. Sometimes there'll be times where you already barreled the turn before, so your opponent will have a full lock field, and you don't even have to use the first ability. You can just stride into it just for its GB3 to get plus, what was it, 3k for each lock card. That's what, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15k to the front row if you're playing against an Axel deck, and you decide to lock their Axels instead of taking them, which, you know, I've done once in a while just to get more power. They have 15. I know how to do math. I'll skip that part because most of the time we take their XLs. They don't deserve it. Anyway. Another stride. Deluge. Why we play Deluge? Simple. We love hand ripping. This entire deck needs to be able to hand rip. If you don't hand rip, you lose the game. We're sadly in a format where people can shit out boards like there's no tomorrow. Neo Nectar, for example, can shit out tokens like there's no tomorrow. Ground Blue shits out a board like there's no tomorrow. Fedora can shit out a board like there's no tomorrow. Shiranui shits out a board like there's no tomorrow. And the worst part about it is that they shit out a board, they bounce it right back in their hand. What am I going to do? How am I going to lock that? This. Call cards from their hand as locked. Great. And then ping them a damage, essentially. So it's basically a GB3 on play. Soul Blast 1, discard 1. Note, well, also change a card face, but note the discard 1. If you have a heart with chaos in its card name, my opponent chooses 2 cards from their hand and calls them a rearguard circle as locked. Separate rearguard circle is locked. Note that. And then choose a card that they have locked on their field and put it as a damage zone face down. Basically ping them a damage. That's great. Note about the discard 1. Funny enough, you can also combo with close. So use these 2 together and basically hand rip 3. If you strode with 1, and then discard another one, hand rip 4. We love hand ripping. Hand ripping is so much fun. Now, continuing with these last few strides. This one, Baryon in. We love Baryon in. You're going against an Axel deck? Great. Place this down, rip them both, plus 20k to crit. Swing. Oh, and you also have a Zirconium on the board that made you a natural 2 crit beforehand? Great. Swing it in for 4 crit. Don't have a PG. Good luck, buddy. If I hit the Elder Breath, perish. If I double crit, perish. If I just hit triggers in general, perish. But we love this card. This is unironically, funny enough, if you're going against Highlander and they just don't have a PG, if you know they don't have a PG, this might be the way you win, because most of the time you lose against Highlander. It's bullshit. I hate that deck sometimes. This, if they don't have a PG, swing and they die. I love you, Daniel. Anyway. Next card, Cosmic Dawn. Why do we play Cosmic Dawn in the deck? Simple. It does great things. On attack, CB1, top 7, call 2 is locked. Why? Why is that any good? Simple. Because you can search your deck for 2 cards, essentially. Top 7 for 2 cards. Call them as locked and bounce them. Funny enough, you can call Elementaria as locked. So you basically call Elementaria as locked and then bounce it back to hand. Why does that work? That's funny. The reason why is that it's a normal deck order. It's not like your funny, what are they? Do I have them right here? Yeah, I got them right here. Not like your funny tickets here. These aren't real cards. Or like same thing with Protect Markers. They're not real cards. The moment they're placed down like that as locked, they disappear. They're gone. Gone forever. Never to be seen again. So yeah, the reason why I play this, because it searches out PGs, searches out pieces, searches out cards. You just put it into your hand later. And also just because of the ability. Like, let's say you rip an important piece off of, I don't know, whatever deck you're playing against, important piece off of Zirconium. Cool, you can go into this and just keep that thing locked. Make sure they never sees the light of day. Because for each card that I returned that was locked, that goes back to my hand, my opponent chooses the one that unlocks it. Most of the time, you kind of just call things to the back row as lock to bounce. Or sometimes there's some funny shenanigans you can do. Like one of your G guards lets you lock your own rears. So you lock your own rears and then call 2, bounce your entire board back to hand, and your opponent has to lock 5. Well, has to lock 5 now. We love that. But it comes up here and there. I rarely stride this thing. Most of the time the thing is just flipped up. I flip it off for costs. Next funny thing, the GB8. I've been wanting to play this thing forever, and I think it's really funny because of its GB8 ability, which is CB1. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Another keyword, discard card from your hand. Who gets like 2 like to be discarded from their hand? Close. So you basically use these 2 at the same time by discarding them. You get to potentially hand rip, let's see, 5, 6, 7 cards from your opponent's hand. Is that fair? Very, very fair. But the only downside to Alt-Wider, or GB8, is that it only calls to rearguard circles that are open. If it didn't call to open, this would be probably one of the best cards in my G-Zone. If I even survive to that point. Most of the time I don't. But anyway, yeah, if you're going against a deck like Grand Blue, you're going against, mainly just Grand Blue. This card just looks at Grand Blue and just says, if I survive to GB8, cool. Hand rip 4, because most of the time they'd only just have impacts in the back. This is why you discard this. So you can choose to do this first, resolve this ability, and then, technically, and then go into that, so they call another one on top of the impacts. If they have protects, you rip them eventually. You essentially just a hand rip 4, 5. 4, 5, 6. It's not just a hand rip 6 against Grand Blue. But let's be fair, you never win against Grand Blue anymore. I don't think we ever did. I just got lucky. Yeah, GB8, love GB8. And then another important card, Harmonics. Why? Simple. We love to face up our own cards and lock them. Also because it just gives you this funny little ticket. Also, for the Chaos Breaker mirror, it does come in handy. But most of the time, if you go into this first in the Chaos mirror, you auto lose. It's just how it is. As you can see here, it is the peasant version. No SP, no foiling. Yeah, I know, I'm broke. You're like, broke? But I just saw some very funny and shiny triple rares and SPs in your deck. Yeah, it doesn't change the fact that I'm so broke. Anyway. Moving on to G-Guards. We only play 4, because realistically speaking, all our G-Guards suck. Destiny Guardian. We love Destiny Guardian. Cool. G-Guard. Choose 2 rear guards, unlock them, gain shield. We love that. The best part about it, since it unlocks cards, you can proc CBD skill to draw cards and remove markers. So let's say you're going against, I don't know, going against something funny like Gold Paladin. Cool. Bonk. Cool. Remove those things. Great. That's fun. Oh, give me 1 second. Anyway, pardon intrusion. So, yeah, Destiny Guardian. We love this. Going against XL decks, rip markers, gain shield. We love shield. This is like the only G card that gains shield. Okay. You don't count. You're useless. I never use you. Anyway. It's the only really G card that gains shield. Comes a 25k shield. I just wish it gave a little more, but to be fair in Sheer, I guess a 25k shield was pretty rad. Now it's kind of useless. So you got Neos that gain big shields. Cosmorith. Why we play Cosmorith? It's just, it does something once in a while. It doesn't on-play CB1. Opponent chooses 1 rearguard, the background locks it, and then gain plus 5k shield. Something too special. But it's something. Then discard, which I don't know how to pronounce because I keep messing it up. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I gave up. This is the fun card against Neo Nectar. That's when you do this. Trying to get Neo Nectar because most of the time Neo Nectar will always go force 2 against you because they know you can't guard the numbers anyway. What you like to do is if this is on your man, G-Guard into this. G-Guard. CB1, turn a card face up. Lock their back row. Since they're swinging with 2 crit already, and this isn't enough to guard, you take it, lock the 2 plant tokens. Lock the next 2 tokens. You removed every token on their board. For a counterblast. Well, a heal and a counterblast. Remove every token. They can swing with Katrina. Literally can't do anything with Katrina, because they have no more plant tokens. Yep. That is literally everything that this deck does. It is very, very funny deck if you hate your opponent, which most of the time I do. That's why I played this deck. Also, this cool top 3 playmat for Springfest. Yeah, I didn't win this. This was a gift. Not even mine. I'm a fraud. But anyway, that's Chaos Breaker. My lovely, my child. Eventually it'll get high rarity. Eventually. But that's it. Hope you enjoy.